Hello and welcome to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written in Indianapolis by Dr. Adrian Peterson and produced in the studios of WRMI Shortwave in Miami. Today, a special program of Wavescan. We have a review of the early shortwave stations by Jerome Berg, an international call. We'll be talking with Dr. Jerry Plummer from the HFCC Frequency Conference in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and Yuki Kotsuji with her Japan DX report. The fourth book on the 90-year history of shortwave radio broadcasting, all authored by the noted radio historian Jerome Berg in suburban Boston, USA, is now on the market and available to all who have a keen interest in the fascinating backgrounds to international radio broadcasting. We have more now from Ray Robinson.
This new volume, The Early Shortwave Stations, is replete with more than 300 pages of information on the early shortwave stations, and it makes for very interesting reading. The new book completes the 4-volume compendium on shortwave broadcasting and shortwave listening, running from the earliest year, 1923, right up to the present time. The first book in the series, under the title On the Shortwaves, was issued in 1999, and it covers the early shortwave scene from 1923 up to the end of World War II in 1945. Because of its popularity, this volume has already completed its second printing. The second book, Listening on the Shortwaves, covering the era from the end of World War II up to the present day, was published in 2008, and it too has already gone through its second printing. The third volume, Broadcasting on the Shortwaves, again covering the era from the end of World War II up to the present time, was also released in 2008, and as we would expect, a second printing was issued just 2 years back. And now Book 4 is available, and in this volume with the title The Early Shortwave Stations, Jerry Berg has gone back to the beginning and covered the era from 1923 up to the end of World War II. And thus it is that these 4 volumes, Listening on the Shortwaves 1 and 2 and Broadcasting on the Shortwaves 1 and 2, cover the entire spectrum of shortwave history during the past 90 years. Volume 4, The Early Shortwave Stations, was released just before the end of last year, and it begins with the story of the earliest radio broadcast programming on shortwave via the well-known medium wave station KDKA in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1923. Back then, most of the programming via Westinghouse Shortwave 8XS was a relay from the medium wave unit KDKA itself. KDKA shortwave was the dominant shortwave station in those very earliest days, and yet other stations soon followed, not only in the United States, but also in other countries overseas, including England, Germany, and Australia. The book documents a year-by-year progression, as many other shortwave stations, large and small, took to the air in so many different countries around the world. By the end of the era covered in this book, 1945, the shortwave bands were full of stations all around the globe, as it still is to this day. Among the many almost forgotten interesting observations that are brought to light in this new volume, we could mention that station KDKA began a regular international shortwave service to the scattered inhabitants in the frozen areas of northern Canada. Holland came into the act with station PCJJ in 1926 with a 300-watt transmitter on 3313 kHz. The General Electric station, W2XAF, in Schenectady, New York, broadcast a special program to the Falkland Islands in 1933. Early broadcasting stations in Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta in India, under such calls as 2GY, 7BY, and 7CA, eventually gave way to VUM, VUB, and VUC. General Electric had a cat called Kilowatt and a dog named Short, and they gave their calls occasionally in shortwave programming. Station CSW in Lisbon, Portugal, announced its call sign phonetically as C Canada, S Spain, W Washington. Amateur station EA9AI in Melilla, Spanish Morocco in North Africa, was on the air for an hour each Saturday and Sunday evening with broadcast programming on 7180 kHz. And there's lots more interesting items of early shortwave information in the sections year by year. When we come to the concentrated radio events associated with World War II, we find ample detail regarding many interesting medium wave and shortwave stations in a multitude of countries, and these are covered effectively in Volume 4. For example, the first call sign for a 200-watt experimental shortwave transmitter in Budapest, Hungary, was HAAQ2, and this was soon afterwards regularized as HAD. Tiny Andorra established its own shortwave voice as Radio Andorra, and Ireland launched its own shortwave service with just 1.5 kilowatts. The Bahamas also launched a low-power operation on shortwave with just 200 watts as a relay from medium wave ZNS. Call signs in Czechoslovakia were changed under German administration from OLR2A and OLR3C to DHE2A and DHE3C. The German station XGRS in Shanghai, China, sent IRC international reply coupons to its listeners in an endeavour to increase its mail response. The British established a small 1.5 kilowatt clandestine shortwave station on the island of Mauritius that claimed to be located in Madagascar. Under the Japanese administration, Radio Saigon broadcast programming in the Dutch language pretending to be Radio Batavia in what is now Indonesia. The Chinese shortwave station XGOY planned the production of a broadcast service to Latin America, and they asked California-based KWID to relay this programming. We might also add that the detailed information contained in the appendix makes for very interesting reading. And in addition, you will appreciate the many pictures of QSL cards, letters, and documents that are reproduced in Volume 4. The complete set of 4 volumes of Jerome Berg's monumental series on the history of shortwave broadcasting and listening has set a standard of excellence in this area of radio broadcasting that is not met in any other way by any other publications. No other histories cover the intricate details of the widespread impact that has been accomplished to the peoples of the world during the past nearly 1 century of shortwave broadcasting. All 4 volumes are worthy of attention by all international radio monitors, and we would recommend them for inclusion in the libraries of the communication departments of all universities throughout the world. We here at Wavescan are pleased that we can offer one of these volumes as an award each year in our annual DX contest. These books have been produced by McFarland and Company of Jefferson in North Carolina and also in London, England. And you can make contact with them at their website, which is mcfarlandpub.com, spelt McFarlandpub.com, or by phone in the United States at 1-800-253-2187. We conclude this monograph with reference to the fact that the author, Jerome Berg, has followed a regular publishing custom and dedicated each volume to specific people. We are grateful, and humbled too, that he has included our DX host Dr. Adrian Peterson on the dedication page of his Volume 4, The Early Shortwave Stations. An international call. At the end of the preface in Volume 4 of his shortwave radio history, The Early Shortwave Stations, author and radio historian Jerome Berg makes this statement. And once again I say thanks to my wife Ruth, who has accepted my pronouncement that this is the last of my big shortwave projects with knowing skepticism, and who I know will understand if it turns out I was wrong. So, Does this terse statement mean that Jerome Berg is indeed quietly giving consideration to the preparation of additional radio books? It's true, there is a wide need for the production of more books in association with the story of shortwave broadcasting. The time has come, and we would like to suggest, recommend, and urge that serious consideration be given to the preparation of a series of publications containing a compendium of QSL cards from around the world. Maybe these publications, each with a list of countries and shortwave stations in alphabetic order under a continental area, could contain a listing of QSL cards with pictures in colour and text, in much the same way as catalogues are available on all of the postage stamps issued by each country around the world. Ample quantities of QSL cards in 4 different major collections are available for this purpose at various locations. There's the CPRV collection, which is under the auspices of Jerome Berg himself. There's the ORF collection in Vienna, Austria, major heritage collections in New Zealand, and the Indianapolis Heritage Collection in Indianapolis, USA. A sampling of some of these colourful QSL cards from earlier times is pictured on the front cover of Volume 4, The Early Shortwave Stations.
You're listening to Wavescan from Adventist World Radio. Send your comments and reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229 in the United States. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229 in the USA. Or you can email us at wavescan@awr.org. Our email once again, wavescan@awr.org.
You are listening to Wavescan from AWR. For the past many years, the Rhine-Main Radio Club over there in Europe has prepared a QSL calendar in full color, depicting 2 QSL cards on each page. Some of the QSLs that are pictured in full size are very old and exotic, and others are from more recent times. Now, the 2014 QSL calendar, we have a copy of it here in Miami, and some of the QSLs that are on the calendar include Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation from 2013, showing wildlife in Sri Lanka. Radio New Zealand, a card from 2012. All India Radio from 1974. The no longer existing KTBN in Utah, 1999 QSL card. Radio Africa Tangier, 1959. The Voice of Nigeria, a card from 2009. Rádio Clube de Huambo in Angola, a 1957 card. Also a 1957 QSL from the South African Broadcasting Corporation in Johannesburg. From Radio Southwest Africa, a 1980 card with a desert view. Radio Sucre from Venezuela, a 1977 QSL showing an indigenous man climbing a palm tree. The 2014 QSL calendar is available at $20, and you can make contact with Dr. Harold Gabler at Dr. Gabler, that's DRGABLER, at t-online.de. That's Dr. Gabler, DRGABLER, at t-online.de. I guess that dash is actually a hyphen. And he can give you information on how to get a copy of the QSL calendar for 2014 from the Rhine-Main Radio Club in Germany, available for $20. Wavescan presents Focus on Asia, a year-long series of reports about shortwave broadcasting and listening on the continent of Asia. Last week was the High Frequency Coordination Conference in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The HFCC is where shortwave stations from around the world plan their frequency schedules for the following season. In this case, it's the A14 season, which begins on March 30th, 2014, and ends on October 26th. While the conference was going on last week, Brady Murray of shortwave station WWCR in Nashville, Tennessee, spoke by telephone with his colleague Jerry Plummer, who was at the HFCC conference in Kuala Lumpur.
So as we're recording this, it's 6:33 local time, and I think that means it's like 6:33 in the evening, and for you about 8:30 in the morning, right?
It is. That's exactly right. And, you know, you and I have done this before. This is the third time that I've been in KL with the HFCC. And
the reason that you are in Malaysia is for the HFCC, which happens twice a year, and that's where you go and coordinate frequencies. And you are at a conference that is going to cover frequency used in the second half of 2014. Is that right?
Yes. This is what they call their A14 sequence, and you and I have been working on it for several months. There's a little over 120 representatives from different places around the globe here, and I understand, too, again, going to this 12,000-mile, 14-hour time difference, I know you probably don't want to hear this, but over here it's 8:30 in the morning. It's about 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Is that similar to the temperatures you have in Nashville, Tennessee?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think right now it's about 15 degrees.
Wow.
It's very cold. It's been windy and very cold, and it looks like the cold stays with us. Maybe, if you're lucky, it'll still be going on when you get back.
Yeah, it gives me something to look forward to, doesn't it? I also, too, by way of Miami to Kuala Lumpur back to Nashville, I spoke with Jeff White yesterday, who also asked me to tell you hello, and he's in the States as you are, and he was complaining that in Okeechobee, Florida, he's had frost on his car the last 2 mornings.
Well, it definitely gets worse. Maybe not in Okeechobee, Florida. But that's pretty far south to have frost, right?
Yes, it is.
Doc, I wanted to ask you another question about the HFCC, and I know that we have a good connection now. That doesn't always last, so I wanted to go back to a topic about the HFCC while everything's good.
Sure.
In Kuala Lumpur, which is a fairly common place for this meeting to take place, who is the sponsor of this meeting?
This particular one is the ABU, which is the Asian, if you will, sort of the Asian side of the HFCC.
Mm-hmm.
Those two groups typically in this season will, as you say, use KL as a gathering point. And the other season, in the HFCC sponsors it along many times with us co-sponsoring NASB.
Right, with the NASB, sure.
Yes, but this time it's the ABU, ASBU, it's the Asian side and the Arab side that have pulled together to sponsor this conference. Mm-hmm. And next time around, it'll be us, NASB, will be a co-sponsor, along with one of your friends, Vinci, from Spaceline in Bulgaria.
Does that meeting take place in Bulgaria?
Yeah, it'll be in Sofia, Bulgaria. This time around, Vinci has arranged, the combination of Vinci and Jeff White working together have arranged the hotel accommodations and things of that nature. So that'll be a joint venture of Spaceline and, of course, here domestically, NASB, of which WWCR is a proud member.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I believe you're the president of NASB.
Yes, I am. When you are at an HFCC meeting, one of your main goals, if not your main goal, is looking for any in-band frequency that might be of use to us.
That's exactly right. You know, we were very blessed in 2013 to be able to secure 6115, an in-band frequency that's worked out well for us. Mm-hmm. And you and I know, but for the listeners, one of my jobs for the last 2 days has been searching through the different. I've been working in the 5s and the 7s to find us some in-band frequencies that we could use, and I'll continue that today and then work the 9s and the 11s. I haven't got good news yet, but it's early. It can still be done.
Yeah, I think that probably the first couple of days there are sort of getting your footing, aren't they?
It is, and the first day, of course, you know, you got to make sure the IT guys have all the equipment set up correctly, that your internet connections work, and so that's all done now. And as a matter of fact, speaking to people that may have a frequency within, 20 or 30 of us, which is not a collision, just before I started talking to you, I spoke with a member from Jordan, who's got a 500 kW that's at 12.090, which is, I equate sort of to our 12.160. And I mentioned to him, I said, I know we're quite far apart. I just want to, let you know we appreciate you not getting close to us with that big 500 kW thing. And he says, you have my pledge, my friend, that we will not encroach or get near any of your frequencies.
And I think that summarizes the main purpose of the HFCC, because you started out by talking about spending the first day or so making sure the network is intact and that everybody's connected, but really what connects everybody there is face-to-face meetings.
Yes. There's really no way that I could have talked to this man, sort of your counterpart for Radio Jordan. I really would not be able to contact him very effectively. Email, he's quite busy, and the phones are hard to get to, but here, face-to-face, we can talk, we can make agreements that will last for many months to come. But it's a pleasure talking to you from over here in KL, and I'm glad we were able to cut this to put on the air and let people know, listeners, that shortwave is a viable medium, and we're a prime example.
Doc, it's good to talk with you so many miles away.
And that was Jerry Plummer, frequency manager of WWCR in Nashville, Tennessee. He was in Malaysia speaking with Brady Murray on the program Ask WWCR. Now let's go to Yukiko Tsuji in Japan with her DX report for February.
Hello and welcome to the DX Report of the Month from Japan Shortwave Club, edited by Toshi Otake, and I'm Yukiko Tsuji. We have several DX reports from our club members this week. Solomon Islands Broadcasting Corporation from Honiara was heard on 9545 kHz on January 4th from 0759 to 0832 UTC in English. SIO rating was 443. News, local pop music, and the talk program were broadcast. ID was given at 0800. Myanmar Radio from Yangon was heard on 9730 kHz on January 4th from 0928 to 0958 UTC in Burmese. SIO rating was 343. Local music and the talk program were on the air. ID was given at 0931. Season PBS from Lhasa was received on 7255 kHz on January 2nd from 1621 to 1700 UTC in English. SIO rating was 353. ID was given at 1624 as Holy Tibet, Welcome to Holy Tibet. Then Tibetan songs and the talk program about China Tibet Broadcasting Company were heard. Eriniki Radiophonia from Greece was heard on 9420 kHz on January 10th from 2050 to 2105 UTC in Greek. SIO rating was 343. Mainly Greek songs were aired. Interval signal and ID were given at 2059. Vatican Radio was heard on 15595 kHz on January 3rd from 0735 to 0745 UTC in English. SIO rating was 352. Talk in English was aired until 0745, then Arabic program started. Norddeutsche Rundfunk via Nauen, Germany, was heard on 9880 kHz on December 24th from 2200 to the sign-off at 2259 UTC in German. SIO rating was 353, then down to 332. The program aired was a special broadcast, Gruß and Board, for German sailors around the world. Hymn and Christmas carols were played. ID was given at 2214 by a male announcer as NDR Info. Adventist World Radio via Nauen, Germany, was heard on 11975 kHz on January 1st from 0730 to 0740 UTC in Arabic. SIO rating was 554. Talk and music program were aired. Deutsche Welle via Kigali, Rwanda, was received on 15700 kHz on January 4th from 0600 to 0700 UTC in English. SIO rating was 252. News was aired, followed by Africa Link at 06:05 and Inside Europe at 06:30. Caribbean Beacon from Anguilla was heard on 11775 kHz on January 2nd from 2135 to 2142 UTC in English. SIO rating was 353. Preached by a male announcer was on the air. Radio Gaucha from Porto Alegre, Brazil was heard on 11915 kHz on January 4th from 2201 to 2222 UTC in Portuguese. SIO rating was 353, then down to 341. News program was aired and ID was given at 2210. Finally, Japan Shortwave Club will issue the QSL cards for the correct reports on our segment of Wavescan program. We are issuing QSL card by email to the report sent by email. Our address for your email report is jswcqsl@live.jp. I repeat, jswcqsl@live.jp. We continue to issue the printed QSL card by the same system as before. Your report should be addressed to JSWC PO Box 44, Kamakura, which is Kamakura, postal code 248-8691, Japan. $1 ILC or $2 for return postage will be appreciated. For this edition of DX Report, we would like to thank Mr. Yasuharu Tanabe, Mr. Iwao Nagatani, Mr. Chiaki Shimada, Mr. Hirokazu Mitsumoto, Mr. Shoichi Tamane, Mr. Hiroyuki Akiba, and Mr. Satoshi Miyashita for sharing the information with us. Thank you for listening, and please join us for our next edition of DX Report of Japan Shortwave Club. I'm Yukiko Tsuji in Tokyo.
And we end today's edition of Wavescan with music from Malaysia. This is Siritera from the film Silat Leyenda. Thanks for listening to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written by Adrian Peterson in Indianapolis, who has been enduring some extremely cold weather during the past couple of weeks, below zero temperatures Fahrenheit. And Adrian tells me that in my hometown of Indianapolis, the city has been practically shut down a couple of times within the past couple of weeks. Next week on Wavescan, we'll be talking about shortwave in Albania and a variety of international DX news, including our Philippine DX report. If you'd like a QSL card, you can send your reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229, USA. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229, USA. Our email is wavescan@awr.org. That's wavescan@awr.org. I'm Jeff White at WRMI in Miami. Till next week, good listening, everyone.